Hello and welcome to Audionautic Deep Space Network Episode 2. I'm Sunwarper.
And my name is Curtis. Hello, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, man?
Yeah, not bad. How you been doing?
I've been alright. It's been a rough couple days, but it's good to be here, good to talk with you. It's good to see your face, you know.
Yeah, it's like catharsis at this point, isn't it? It's always nice on that front.
Yeah.
It's always nice. So, yeah, here we are, ADSN number 2, /6, however you want to call it.
Yeah.
And it's always fun. The patrons, they get a chance to come on the show, which they'll be around. I have a feeling that Hydro Fight will be around in about 15-20 minutes or so. If you yourself would like to participate in this show, consider making a pledge on Patreon, because it is that kind of thing that keeps us going. It allows us to do more of this stuff, and we love it. We love it. And before we get into anything else, Howard has just entered.
Oh, there we go.
Audionautic.
And I should probably give a quick explanation of what ADSN is for anyone new to the show, since it's in its only second episode. It's in its infancy. So ADSN is a weekly show. It will be live streamed hopefully by next week, but we are doing these live. We don't edit. We don't do anything like that. Howard, you got a retro color going on.
Oh, that is very synthwave. That's been very synthwave.
Anyways, back to the point. What we do is we talk about a topic for a little bit. We're still fleshing out the structure, but for about 20 minutes, we'll be talking about topics, just the three of us, myself, Curtis, and Eon Lake, who just joined. And then we'll be opening it up to the patrons who can come on and talk about either the topics we've been discussing or new topics. Man, those are really distracting. What a trip, man. But yeah, so if you want to join into the chat, just head over to Patreon, as Curtis already said. And with that, we can get started. Howard, how are you doing today?
I'm okay, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I love that shirt, man.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get that endorsement for you.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
my profit's locked up right now. It's up there. I think I'm going to break it out, though, for next week. Yeah.
By locked up, you mean locked up in pride of place?
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's going to be right here come next week. I'm going to do a new setup. I'm getting bored of the Minilog and Erebus duo. I actually used the TR8 for the first time in yeah, I was gonna say months. I think it's actually years.
Well, you could sample it and then you won't need to use it again.
Well, so I got the SP404, so I think I'm gonna sample it into the 404. Yeah, it finally came.
Yeah, happy days.
Yeah,
happy days.
Yeah.
That T-shirt is backwards for me. What does it say?
Sequential circuits. It's
the
original Dave Smith instruments, and then I think they got the name back from like Korg or something, right?
Yeah, they're sequential now, though, aren't they?
Yeah,
well, that's fair. It's always nice when something. Have you been having a good week, Howard?
For the purposes of this broadcast, yes, I have. Thank you.
Look at all of us put on a smiley face and pretend that everything's okay. Eh?
You know how it is, ups and downs. But this is the stuff that saves it most of the time. You know, if I didn't have this, I don't know, where would I be? Probably best not to think about it.
We'll have to see. On that front. Tina, please get off the. I've just picked up Tina from the vet. She just had an operation, and she is she's usually quite a spring chicken. She's usually quite a little kind of like graceful little thing. But now she's just all drugged up and just falling over, and yeah, that's not fun. But hey, it's cool.
Obi had it rough too. We had to go to the ER at night, and we had to take him to the ER, and he just kept throwing up like nonstop. So we had to
what did they put it down to?
What
did they put it down to?
They weren't exactly sure. They did x-rays, nothing obstructing. They think it might have just been like gastroenteritis or something. But I mean, the amount he threw up was just ridiculous. But he scarfs his food down. And so they were thinking that may have like just triggered, him to do all that. So we'll see. But man, it was a late night. And then yesterday, so that was Monday night. And then yesterday was rough. So yeah, it's been a long one.
It's been a long couple of days. But hey, here we are.
But we're here. That's the good news. So we can chat and we can talk good stuff like synths and copyright lawsuits and you name it.
Well, that's an interesting.
Anyone been sued this week?
Not us, no. But yes, funny you should mention it, Howard. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about was that I don't know if you saw it, but that Dua Lipa lawsuit I think there's actually
Oh,
three
I did
now.
hear something. Yeah.
I think there's actually 3 against her. But the first one was from like Article Sound System or something, some like reggae band.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't actually heard the original track, but reading by the comments on whatever form of social media it was, I saw it.
Yeah.
People seem to be quite unanimous about whether or not it sounds similar.
Well, I mean, it is similar. Oh, go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
So there's 2. Just to reiterate the story before we dive into it.
Yeah.
Why am I asking to do ad block? Basically, there's 2 lawsuits on this. One is from that reggae band from, I want to say, Oregon. Maybe I'm wrong there.
I don't know. I think their name's Article Sound or Article Sound System or something like that.
So,
we should really. It's been a rough week for anybody listening, but we should really be a little more structured.
Be on the ball here. But no, yeah. So it's 2 lawsuits, and it's. But I know for a fact it's a reggae band, and one of them are suing because they the structure of the chorus, the structure. They're saying that the pattern of the melody line for the vocals and somewhat the lyricism and the words.
That's the crazy part. They both say like all
that's
night.
Unusual.
They both say like all night and sunrise or something like that. I mean, but the other thing too is the chord. It's in the same key, I believe, and the chord progression is almost the same, but the 4th note, I think the Dua Lipa track goes back to the tonic, and the other band goes to like the minor 5th or something like that. But I mean, it's like eerily similar. But Outkast has the same vocal line in a song from like 1998. The cadence is from a type of singing that's been done in tons of songs. So it kind of like, that's what I wanted to talk about, is where does the line, I mean, that's what these lawsuits decide, I guess, but it's like, we see these lawsuits all the time, and it's like, what is just innocent, either, influence, or what is malicious, maybe not malicious, but, copy or theft?
Well, I think it falls into 3 categories, doesn't it? It's either...
I'm going to take notes. Hang on.
Completely innocent.
Categories.
I think it's either completely innocent, accidentally stolen, or deliberately stolen. Have you ever written a song where you've got, I can hear this melody, I can hear something, and you play it, and then you realise that you've just
you
just written
note for note from something, and you just thought, wow, oh, you such a spammer. Yeah. Good job I noticed. I mean, imagine actually putting a record out and realizing you've done that, that a melody that you've come up with that just came to you when you were listening to some chords or something is actually, you haven't made it up. You've totally ripped it off from somewhere.
Yeah.
Imagine finding that out or realizing it once it was out there in the public domain. I mean, there has to be some sort of mechanism to allow for mistakes like that, I suppose. But
yeah, I mean, I guess it's just giving credit afterwards, but then it seems so hard to define. Like, how do you say, oh yeah, I had heard that song or never heard that song? Or what if you hear a song like in your sleep and it just subconsciously that chord progression just gets lodged in there, and then it's like there's only a finite amount of chords in a key, and of course you can borrow chords, but certain ones aren't going to sound good. So it's like, where,
and it's a common argument, but I think it's so what is music? It's rhythm, it's timbre, it's melody, it's harmony, it's structure. I think really it's, unless you're talking about melody, which I think is quite cut and dry.
Yeah.
If you rip a melody off, I think really there is some leeway there.
Yeah.
And it's about how many of those elements kind of line up. I think it's kind of obvious, really. Yeah. I mean, I also think it's possible that you could write something that sounds a bit too much like something you've never heard before. I do think that's possible, but I also think it's highly unlikely given the permutations and so on.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I guess
have the same sort of feel and vibe and so on.
That's what I was going to say. Like, you could take a chord progression from a rock song and put it into an ambient track, and would you ever know necessarily? Yeah. I mean, you might hear, I mean, that the kind of moves trick, the same way, but the Axis of Awesome chord.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's been used enough times and people don't really notice so much. I mean, I remember this from when I was a kid. There were certain bands that I'm not going to name, but seemed to actually make a very, what's the word? Successful and profitable pop career out of taking elements of other people's songs and stitching them together. I mean, you could say, right, well, that verse is definitely that, and the chorus is without a question that.
Well, I mean, let's face it, drum and bass in jungle, it's built on the back of sampling, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, the sampling, I tend to think of differently because it's kind of like repurposing and recontextualizing sounds. So it's not, I mean, yes, it's exactly the sound, but you might pitch it up, you might speed it up, you might slow it down, whatever. But it's not about taking it and copying it. It's about taking it and repurposing it and turning it into something else, which, you know, if that's what you're doing, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with it, especially, if you like, say you are chopping it.
But would you still want credit given to the original artist? And potentially
I don't know. I mean, there's this myth that you can sample up to 2 seconds and it's cool.
True.
That's absolute rubbish. It is rubbish.
That's lawsuit city.
I do think that there's probably a bit of mileage in that. You know, that's a tiny amount. Can't really copyright, you know, part of a word. But if you take a whole line, then that's clearly, you know. I
mean, I feel like, me being the all-loving hippie that I am, I think that this whole thing has just it's just so unnecessary. I understand why we have it, but I don't see it as part of the artistic expression. I see it more as the business side has got underneath it. I mean, there's always going to be some of that, right? Because once people start putting money into something, they need to protect their interests. But yeah, you'd like to think that common sense can still prevail as well. I mean, what do you think about the actual suit, though? About the actual case?
I don't know. It's interesting.
I think there's
court of Audionautic. Get your gavel out.
It feels like particularly that as far as I understand it, this reggae band are somewhat. They're not as pop. I want to be careful because we're broadcasting this live in theory, but they're not as well known and they're not as successful and they're not as popular as, say, Dua Lipa, for example. They are. They're a bit more small time, which is fine. You know, I mean, I'm as small fry as they can
Many
get.
people are.
Yeah, exactly.
In that category.
But like, my point is that it seems to me that I went through the court case, or I didn't go through the court case. I watched Adam Neely's thing on the dissection of the court case, and and he was saying we were going through it page by page, and there's no kind of, usually with these things, there's theoretical kind of knowledge and music theory that's presented as this why this is the same, but this was all a bit more hearsay, that kind of thing, which maybe they're just trying to make a quick buck off Dua Lipa.
I mean, that's reminds me of that Katy Perry case where that one like Christian rapper was like, but that one, I think there was less merit to it because it was just like, it was a different key, I think a different BPM, just a similar sort of structure and stuff. But the only thing I would say in response to you, Curtis, is like, I understand what Adam was saying, that there's less chance Dua Lipa and her producers who actually wrote the song could have heard this band, because, you know, part of the merit they were trying to say is like, it was big enough that it would have been heard. But I also don't think the size of a band necessarily determines whether like someone could have heard it. You know, someone with a keen eye on things could have been like listening, or it could have come up on a playlist, or, you know, anything like that. Yeah. So
particularly if it were malicious as well. I mean, why would you plagiarize something really well known if you were going to do something like that?
Yeah, and that's true.
You'd find something underground.
Find something. Yeah, that's true too. But I understand. I mean, you have to prove, I guess, probably in the same context, like beyond reasonable doubt, that hey, this song could have been heard enough to merit that it would have been stolen or something like that. So yeah, I understand, but I also feel like that precedent can be dangerous for little artists like Eon Lake, saying, who would get screwed by these bigger ones who could be, you know, scrounging through smaller things to find stuff to take, or, you know, maybe even not maliciously, but just, you know, looking for inspiration.
I mean, you're not wrong. I feel like, I mean, okay, so Dua Lipa has actively said that she takes a lot of inspiration from Outkast, who is another contender. They're not actually suing.
Yeah, but I mean, both bands basically took from that idea.
Yeah, and there's that again. It's all right. So we're trying to find that balance between copyright and an ode. Maybe that's the right word.
I think it's called interpolation or something. Well, no, interpolation is still, you have to give credit. Like, I think that Paramore, that song from someone that they had to give credit to Paramore for, like, basically taking the same chord chorus and like doing
Well,
that.
yeah, and I mean, I come back to it. I don't think it kind of ruins the whole situation for me. You know, like it's we're in the 21st century. You know, we've had music for thousands of years at this point. Well, and there's only so many, like you say, there's only so many combinations of notes and chords and scales that you can use. And
melodies too. I mean, I think if you rip off a melody one for one, yeah, you should probably at least give credit. You know, if it's intentional, but yeah, I mean,
I disagree. I'm an absolutist on this. I just don't agree. Like the idea of, you know, expressing yourself through art. I don't think that. Sure, say I like to listen to Outkast, for example. That's fine, but I think it sets a dangerous precedence, like you say, when it's like just kind of like you have to give credit. Like it's art at the end of the day, and
both
people
set
still
a dangerous precedent though, because then you're basically saying theft is okay, steal everything you want and never give credit, right?
Yeah,
because
it's art.
But yeah, that's
it's someone else's art, dude.
But then wouldn't that be like that artist who did the hard work that maybe did that loses out on credit and or money that should be theirs for having created it in the first place, when this other band just went, oh, bop, 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 bop. Same thing.
It depends. Are you ripping an entire song, or are you ripping like a melody line or a chord line or something like that?
That's true. Yeah. That's
like
true.
I was watching there's a black metal guy, Croatian black metal guy, who just had his song stolen by another Italian black metal band a couple of days ago, and they literally took an MP3 of his track from his YouTube channel, and then they stuck an intro on the front, and then they just put it out as theirs. Which, yeah.
So my question to you is, where does the line end?
Not very polite, is it?
Where does the line end that changes from, oh, you need to give credit, to, oh, you don't?
But that's the point. I think that's the question that we should be asking ourselves. Yeah. Which line, how much of a song can be stolen? Like, if someone wants to take a drum pattern that I've written, for example, fine. You know, go take it. I don't care. Like it's a drum pattern at the end of it. It's probably not even a pretty good drum pattern at that. Like, just take it. You know, like it doesn't matter. Let go. If that gives you inspiration to go and create your own art, hats off to you. People are still going to go and listen to my music. People are still going to go and buy my music. Like it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That said, don't go ripping the whole Fragments EP, for example, because I will know, and that's just not cool. You know, at the end of the day.
So what you're saying, Josh, is there's a line.
There is a line. Yeah, there is a line.
That's what
your line's in a different place
line, right?
to ours, isn't it? Right? Yours is a much further away line than mine or Sunwarper or something. But there is. It's a matter of perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there is.
But
because I mean, you could open the door to somebody just like with everything you do, literally everything you do. Yeah. I've got a new single out. It's, oh, dear, I've got a new single out.
Yeah,
I better copy it quick and get it out there.
I guess what it comes down to though is like, yeah, we all have different lines, but somewhere a line has to be drawn that is decided in like public opinion, right, or something, or in a court, because we all have different spots, but if there's ever these disruptions or legal cases, it's like there needs to be some precedent that determines where the line is, at least most people can agree upon. It's just three of us who are just, you know, making music and stuff like that. We all seem to have a different threshold of what we would tolerate, right?
Well, let's find out. We're three right now. Hydrofight is in the waiting room. Hey. Let's bring him in and let's see what he has to say about the whole situation, because I'd like to be keen. I have some ideas, but I want Steve to speak for himself. Because you're right. The question comes along. I don't think suing someone over a particular melody or a rhythmic pattern is justifiable in any situation.
Yeah, I would say rhythmic patterns less and less so, and then chord progressions. But melodies, that's
you
kind
can't
of where
copyright
I start.
chord progressions.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I think this is where we're trying to intellectualize it, because I think there are other things. Hey, Steve,
all right,
that come into play. Like, you know, if it's the same chord progression played with pretty much the same guitar sounds, you know, with the same sort of production, like even to the reverb and so on, then, you know, it's copying, isn't it? If it's, you know, one guy's playing skiffle and the other guy is doing a bit of grindcore.
Some napalm.
I think we can probably let that one go. But the fact is, when you hear it, you know what you think, and then everything else is trying to intellectualize and put some framework around that. But really, I think you kind of know when something's getting ripped off or not.
Yeah.
Well, hi, Steve. How are you?
Hey guys, what are we talking about here?
Copyright,
interesting conversation.
And lawsuits.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about the Dua Lipa.
I did read up on that, and man, that song sounds exactly like the song they ripped off.
Yeah, so we were having a somewhat heated debate. Eon Lake and I, of course, were in similar agreement because we've got the same mindset, and Josh is much more like, steal all you want, go nuts, let's be thieves. So we just wanted to hear. Obviously, I'm over exaggerating Josh's point, but just a quick summary.
No offense to Josh or anything.
None taken. See what you can do. So yeah, so
I just wanted
Steve,
to give an over exaggerated way so that Steve would know the two polar ends of our spectrum here.
we live in such a dualistic.
It's kind of like going back to the old Vanilla Ice ripping off Queen in a way too, right? I mean, there was that one extra beat. I'm like, that's still a total rip off of it, though.
But one extra beat. Like, come on.
Yeah, didn't he say it's
two
like,
extra beats? And God damn it!
It's dun na 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 or something like that. That made
dun,
the
dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So I mean, where do you sit? As you said, Steve. So Howard and Michael are a little bit more along the lines of like there's some stringent ideas, and I'm all for like fuck it. Take it,
So I wasn't over exaggerating then.
And to just kind of keep those dualistic ideas there for the purposes of this debate and the purposes of this discussion. Because let's face it, we don't live in a world of grey area. Everything is so black and white at the moment, anyway.
Yeah.
Steve, where do you sit?
With the Dua Lipa thing?
Yeah.
I tell you what, you guys watch? Is it Rick Beato? Where he does analysis type of stuff. He did a great video on the comparison of that. I mean, I think the harmonic ideas are all there. The melody is pretty much there. I mean, the tempo is a little bit different. The tempo is not going to make it distinct from another song. I mean, if you've got that harmonic progression and that melody, I think you're pretty much locked in on it being a copy or a ripoff, whatever you want to call it. I took some courses back in the day on some of this stuff, and I mean, it'd be interesting to talk to a lawyer about some of this copyright type of stuff, and maybe even some of the licensing type of stuff too. But how do they go into a courtroom and tear it apart to make it distinct? I mean, how does a jury, if you have to go in front of a jury, how are they going to know the difference?
Yeah, I guess you'd have to try to explain it in the most like layman's terms possible, right? Skip the musical jargon or something, or try to explain some sort of music.
Or explain some of it and say, right, well, look, these are the elements of music. These are the things that go up to make what music is.
Yeah.
We do or don't feel that it does or doesn't match on X number of levels, and try and do it that way, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for us, what we do too, and more so years ago when I was first getting into the electronic stuff and the sampling stuff, I mean, it's tough to figure out what you can sample and how. I mean, I sample a ton of things, but I manipulate it
that's
so
what we were
much.
Just talking about. I mean, technically,
different.
any form of sampling is illegal without permission. Like even a microsecond, that's technically.
You can sample yourself, basically.
Yeah, you can sample yourself, and then something that's like public domain. But I mean, that's the technical thing. But yeah, if you mangle it up and chop it up, or if you take a granular section and make a synth out of it, like how would someone know? They probably wouldn't. But
you're right.
Did Boards of Canada clear all those samples?
That's what I always wonder, because I don't.
Because they use so many.
They use tons of samples, and like it's
a full-time job.
I think
those.
The song Aquarius uses something from Hair or is it Hairspray? I don't know, whatever movie or play it is, or I don't know. But it like a direct. I think they actually recreated it, but in one of the earlier versions of Aquarius, that was like a single. It's a sample. And all that.
Is that the one with the bass line, the funky bass line?
Bass line? That's from the thing they copied or they sampled from, and then I believe for the final one, because you can hear it change notes, and it's like I think they recreated it, but they still have to, I would think, give credit or something. And then all those Sesame Street samples they use and like things like that. Like I would assume, especially because it's on Warp, who got pretty big now and has their own licensing and stuff like that, there's got to be splits and stuff involved.
Well, what is it? It's been a long time since I looked at this, but at a certain time, and I don't know if it's like 40 or 50 years, basically the copyright.
Oh, is it 75 years copyright?
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what it was.
But it can be renewed.
Yeah.
By like a next of kin or something, or an
estate.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I believe it can be renewed. I'm almost positive.
So before you joined, Steve, I was saying that maybe there are three categories for this sort of thing. There's the unintentional, didn't mean to copy it sort of thing. There's the intentional, yeah, I totally ripped it off. What are you going to do about it? And then there's the I didn't copy it. It just, happens to be the same.
Yeah. I have a tough time believing that Dua Lipa song is not
well,
copied.
I know that I have on a couple
about.
Of occasions. I've come up with. I've been doing some work on something. I've heard something. I've come up with something. I've played it, and then I've realised, oh my god, you know what that is, don't you?
I'm actually in one of those spots right now, and it's a Boards of Canada arpeggio thing. And I started listening to it, and I'm like, oh. Got to go back to rewrite that thing. I mean, it's a complete ripoff. And Josh and I did that with the last.
You think that's brilliant? I've come up with a brilliant part. Then you realise it's someone else's song. The point was, imagine you didn't catch it before it was released, and you released something, on a major label, and then realised, oh my god.
Well, I think
that's not our melody.
I did a little bit of research on that song too, and I think there's like 4 or 5 writers that are attributed to the Dua Lipa song.
So.
Okay,
but
usually,
that was one person. One of the things we were talking about though is like how likely is it for a song to have been heard too? Like that.
And can you prove it?
And how would you prove it? But then that also, like I was saying, can be detrimental to smaller artists because it's like, oh, if you don't have the clout, then you could be stolen from, and they'd never. You'd never be able to prove it was listened. So it's a really weird position. I mean, I don't think any of us have or know the answers, but it's just interesting to talk about and get everyone's perspective. Josh, what were you going to say? You look like you wanted to say something.
No, it's just in my experience, because I use a lot of samples in my work. The claiming when I was back in the day, but before I was Curtis, I just went, nah, fuck it, just put it out. And then I went, okay, you can't do that. If you want to make it a full-time gig, you have to kind of play the game. And so I have this track that I haven't been able to release yet because it borrows samples from Angela Davis, who the civil rights activist. Mm-hmm. And Stevie, I'm talking. Can I have a minute, please?
Not you, Steve.
Cat Steve, not human Steve.
Cat
Stephen. But yeah, so this part I sampled part from a documentary, and I was trying to trace back the copyright to where it would go, and I was back and forth with people going between like the Scandinavian National Archives.
Not easy, is it?
Yeah, they don't make it easy.
And eventually, I got on the phone to some guy in Denmark. And he basically said to me that we own the copyright to this, and we can't give you permission to do it. But that's not what Angela Davis would have wanted. So if it ends up going out, all right, that kind of thing. Because there was I don't know what reason he gave me.
Be like, can you give me that in writing, please?
Well, I did push for it, and I haven't received it yet. So we'll have to see.
Is that a vocal sample though?
Yeah, it's a vocal sample.
Okay.
It's Angela Davis.
Yeah. That's what I thought. You didn't like turn it. Yeah, I mean, my only thing is like it's not a melody or a chord. Like you're not but it's still a person and it's their copyright, right? You know?
Yeah, completely. I suppose it's just an extension of copyright. It's not a melody, it's not a chord progression or anything like that, but it's a piece of archive that someone owns.
Yeah. So it's her words, but it's someone else's recording of her words because they went to the trouble of recording it.
Yeah. And they basically told me that we can't give you permission to use it.
But we're giving you permission to use.
But basically said, but would Angela? Basically, I think the words were like, would Angela Davis would she have cared, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's in a bit of a grey area. It's just kind of sitting in my DAW, just kind of going, hey, put me out. But anyway,
is there any way you could use like not Song Trader, Sound Drop or DistroKids, like because now they give you that way to get like to put covers up and give credit. I don't know.
That might be a way forward.
This is different because it's covers, but you give like credit and stuff like that.
Or could you re-record it?
Oh, I was thinking about putting it through.
Have someone read it and record it.
It's just the tone of her voice and it's her. Right, I'm a middle class white guy from England. What do I know about the strife of the civil rights movement? It's like
don't get a middle class white guy to do it.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Do you know anyone else?
It's just me. Like it's all about encapsulating pieces.
Yeah, no, I know. The point is that it's everything about it, not just the words. Although that's probably a large part of it.
Yeah. We'll see. I do think though that it's like I've put stuff out before, which is like I think it only becomes a problem when you are you come up on the radar. It's like your tax system. No one minds you dodging taxes until suddenly you make enough money to start.
So how much tax dodging have you done?
Yeah, exactly.
We're coming for you now, boy.
Now we're coming.
So we'll have to see. I'll have to see on that front. I am going.
But it goes to show how difficult it is to do the right thing as well, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. They don't make it easy, so it's not surprising that this kind of stuff happens.
And we'll never find out what the outcome is because they'll settle out of court for a huge lump of money.
I guess we know if credit is given in the track. Like if Spotify changes it to show them or something, because that happened with, I can't remember the name of the person, but somebody, like the chorus of this song was just like a Paramore song, and now they're listed as whoever wrote the Paramore song, I think it was the lead singer and someone else or something, are credited in this other song as writers. So that's probably the only way we'd know if it's settled like an arbitration or something like that.
Or maybe people need to try harder to write more original music, huh?
Or sample harder if you're Curtis over
here. just load it
hard.
Yeah, it's just like you said. I dropped out. I had to take a look at Tina. If they made it easy. If they had a department, a bureau, or whatever, we wouldn't have these issues.
Yeah.
But because everything's so steeped in bureaucracy and whataboutism, it becomes so much more difficult. And at the end of the day, it's people like us that kind of suffer about it, really. Because Dua Lipa, she's got the whole of, I don't know if she's Warner or Sony or whatever. I don't know what she is.
Big ones.
One of the big ones,
Probably four of them.
Probably all four. Like if she's got a team of lawyers behind her, So, and like you said, Steve, they'll settle out of court for a huge amount of money. It will be a drop in the ocean for that. Warner, right? Yeah, so exactly. Okay, so any out of court settlement, that's going to be a drop in the bucket. I think that's the phrase. But it does hinder artistic expression, and at the end of the day, that's never a good thing. I say.
It's only going to bother artists, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Curtis, do you have a new microphone?
This one or this one?
Yeah. No, the one that you're talking into.
No, I've been yes and no. Basically, this is a very temperamental microphone.
Oh, you don't I know in the edits.
Yeah, very temperamental. And I essentially can't,
and I can't afford to edit it, so it doesn't matter. That's on him.
But so I've been using this one for a little while, but this is now rigged into my vocoder, which is I'm just not going to dismantle it. So I'm using this, and it's essentially
you could have vocoded the whole thing.
Yeah,
that would be really interesting. Actually, that'd be really interesting. So yeah, that kind of thing.
Your sound just
Say again.
Are you doing any vocals with the vocoder right now?
Yeah, so the album I'm working on with J Bell Kwan is quite poppy and it's quite synthy and stuff, and so I'm doing some backup stuff for that, and I'm playing around with the vocal bender plugin from Waves.
Oh yeah, you talked about that I think last week. Yeah.
So I'm experimenting with like doubling up and tripling up and kind of layering and creating some kind of like monster sounds. I like to, again, chopping up vocals from different people. I'm running it through the voice tone, this guy, the TC Helicon voice tone, and just pitch shifting it to either sound like a gremlin or sound like a demon, one of the two.
Music.
Yeah,
surely a mogwai.
Yeah. Well, this is it. It's good fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
You run it
Well,
through.
the question is, does Eon have that same piece of equipment?
No.
Yeah,
He just bought it. He just bought it psychically. He's got a direct connection to Amazon and Guitar Center and whatever.
No, I don't use vocoders much. I do like vocoding synths sometimes with drums.
Yes, that is good fun.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
I think I've only used a vocoder once.
It's really good to put it on your snares. Really good putting it on your snare. Yeah. So I don't want to speak out of turn, but I tend to sometimes put a vocoder on my snare and just cut it to the highs. It basically creates white noise and makes your snares just a little bit more splashy. It's good fun.
Huh. Interesting.
Little thing, as they say. But yes, I wouldn't mind seeing some vocals from Howard though. That'd be cool.
Or spoken word.
Or spoken word poetry. I bet there's a poet in there, Howard.
Deep state poetry.
I could just try ranting slower.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I'll cut a rant and put it in one of my songs.
Or normally, and just pitch pull stretch it. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Pull stretch. That'd be great. Yeah.
It's always the way. So yeah, Steve, I mean, this is your peak time, I assume, for producing, writing, mixing, because before the break. Before the break.
Yeah, I mean, I'm deep into it to a point where it kind of goes back to some of the videos you guys have done in the past where my ears are getting tired.
I've been there for 2 months.
Gotta take a break and step away for a bit or try something different and not really focus so hard, because basically all I'll end up doing is just burning myself out and just wanting to scrape everything all over in a couple of weeks or something like that. So
it used to drive me crazy when I worked in the studio because everybody wanted to listen to everything really loud all the time. I've got to mix this. I'm here for 12 hours and I've got to not wear my ears out. Do you mind if we vary the volume sometimes?
What would you do?
I'd vary the volume as much as possible. Any chance I'd have to turn it right down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's especially when mixing, it's part of what you do, isn't it? See what disappears first, what disappears last, what the balance sounds like at all sorts of different volumes and so on. But yeah, tracking, sometimes I would wear headphones and so on, not actually listening to anything.
Yeah, just blocking it out or something.
Yeah, and stuff like that, just to try and keep the ears fresh for later on when I'm going to have to start mixing. But
well, that brings up a really good question. What does everyone try to mix at volume-wise? Because I try to keep it, I think I did like a test and it was 50 or 60, whatever, like, I did one of those just like using
about 140 dB, I think.
I want it to sound like an airplane next to my head. Just that's the only way you know it's good, dude.
Really, I want to be pinned to the wall by relaxing ambience.
Yeah. But no, I think it's a good question because I always wonder what everyone mixes at. Do you like it really loud? Because my ears just get...
Nah.
So
I find when I turn it up, they tire very quickly. It doesn't take long at all. So when I do turn it up, and I do like to turn it up occasionally, it's just briefly.
Yeah.
And it's also so I can walk around the room a bit and listen in different spots and,
So I use this app called, what is it called? Like Decibel X or something. And you just like hold it. I just hold it up and it's just a rough estimate, but it tells you like, I think it's the decibels that you're at. And it even shows like the frequency spectrum of the room, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I try to keep it at like 60, I think, or something. Cause it tells you what's like safe
or below,
and what it gives like a green meter and red if it goes over. But yeah, I'm curious. Like Steve, what about you?
The two things I found that helped a
Go
lot.
ahead, Howard.
Sorry, was the dim switch I use all the time.
Ah, yeah.
So if I'm not trying to listen to something, and the stop button. The stop button is probably the most useful thing when you're tracking or mixing, because if you don't need to be hearing it, don't. Right, when you're listening, because you're work listening, you're not listening for fun or anything. So if you don't need to hear it, stop it immediately. Don't do anything.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to get up another sound, if you're going to do something else, use that to give your ears a break. But I tend to keep it generally not too loud because my ears get tired very quickly.
Yeah,
otherwise.
I'm with you.
Steve,
even
what
at
do you
low
reckon?
levels, I start feeling like fatigued almost, you know, just because you're intently listening. But yeah, Steve, what about you?
You know, I think it varies for me. I like listening to music loud, but when it comes to mixing, it's a different story. And you know, I the way I do my arrangements is I listen to things in loops for so long, for so many months, that I'm just nitpicking things at different volumes all the time through different speakers and different cans and stuff like that. So I don't think I have a preferred method of what I do with that. I've never really thought about it too much.
Do you keep like your knob, you know, on like your audio interface or something at a certain level?
I just turn on the suck knob and it sucks out all of the crap, right?
That's done by
I think I turned that around the wrong way once. More than once.
There we go.
Josh, what about you?
Same as Steve in a way. Like, I mean, you've seen my waveforms, Michael. You know, I mix quietly, the tiny. Yeah. And it's because I mainly mix in headphones.
Okay.
I do a main mix in headphones, then I go back and do it in things. So on these monitors here. But yeah, so I tend to keep if I'm in the cans, it's always at 12 o'clock, and if it's on the speakers, it's always at 9 o'clock. And I don't know what dB that is. It's enough to keep me. I know the treatment in this room isn't the greatest. So I know it's just at least it's consistent before I take it into the studio at work and do more there, that kind of thing.
So what do you
mean there? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say, how come his waves files are so small? You're not pushing for a hotter volume?
You don't need it if you're going to master it well.
Michael does all my mastering, and so I'm quite happy to just. It saves my ears. I know it's really quiet, and if I'm listening back, like if I'm doing the car method, for example, just to check the mix, I'll run it through my own mastering chain just to check all the levels and stuff like that. But generally speaking, because everything's in cans, I'm writing in cans. It's like a, you know, you go into the Matrix, you know, the rest outside world just stops.
You see binary numbers just
exactly. Yeah, it's great. You know, and so everything's
so green.
It's beautiful. You know. So as a result, just because I've only have got one ear, so I've only got one ear. As in, I've got two ears, obviously.
Oh, really?
But
one's always covered in hair. I just thought it wasn't there.
Yeah. But this one, the anvil. Is it the anvil? The anchor? I can't remember. The bit that basically
the hammer.
The hammer, that one. That's dislodged. I fell down the stairs when I was about 4, basically. Oh, wow. So I don't hear the high end, and I went through years of treatment to try and fix it. It didn't work, and so that's why I use a visualizer for a lot of my stuff.
I didn't know that. Do you pan things to that side and like not realize or do you find you put your priority stuff on the ear you can hear?
I tend to put my guitar, if I do pan, I tend to put my guitars on the right because I can hear that.
Yeah.
Stuff that comes to the left, I've just learned over the years just to compensate and just know that, okay, I can hear that, but that's probably too loud for most people, so I'll knock it down a couple of dB, that kind of thing.
Interesting.
Do you ever flip left and right to?
Yeah, it's like a completely different song. It's like day and night. I could double up and have a double album on each side if I just flick the panning and automate it. That's a good idea, actually. I might try that.
I just went, because I mean, if you're only hearing properly on one side, then you could just flip the channel so that you're listening to the other side.
True.
Then
it's like
flip back.
I'm sure the one's good to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. I didn't know that actually, that you had that issue.
Well, I mean, it's
not holding you back much, is it?
Well, it's a poor state of affairs when your entire profession is based around mixing and making music, and you've only got one ear. I mean, it worked for Beethoven, but I'm still small fry. So.
Yeah. But wait, so you take your mixes now to the work and test them out like on the big.
Yeah. So I do main mix here, and then because literally my work is 6 minutes away. I have to walk, so I just take the project file in there, and I just sit in my studio.
It's gotta be nice. Yeah, that's gotta be good.
It's beautiful. It's nice. Yeah. So yeah, which brings me to talking about mixing. Yeah. Have you guys ever used the pink noise method?
I've heard of that, but no. Go ahead. Explain it. Let's see.
Hang on, Steve.
I haven't. I'm in the same boat as Sunwarper. It's been years since I've heard pink noise thing. Yeah.
So
Howard's probably like, "Ooh, I know what that is."
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I don't think so. Anyway.
Oh.
So if you put, they say, I haven't tried it. I've been meaning to, but I just life gets in the way, and it doesn't seem too fun. But if you put a pink noise generator on your master and then turn it to, I think something like I can't remember what it is, but you put a pink noise on your master, and then you bring down the levels of everything. Mm-hmm. And then one by one, you solo them out and you bring it up so you just hear it over the pink noise. And you do that for each individual stem, completely in solo, completely not worrying about what else is going on. Mm-hmm. In theory, when you turn the pink noise generator off and you bring the whole composition back, it's meant to be perfectly mixed. That's what they say.
I would think that would make everything sound the exact same volume, though, wouldn't it? If it's all hitting just above the. I mean, I could be wrong. I've never done it. Yeah, but you think if everything's meeting just above pink noise, it's all.
It's going to give you everything, at the right volume, depending on the way that your ear responds to sound at that frequency for that particular.
That's true.
Sound.
Yeah, that's true.
Which means, I mean, it would be sort of like everything at what you would perceive to be probably equal volume, but you might want to stack your mix differently,
Seems not very fun.
Have lots of bass and just push things back so that you can just hear them at the sides a little bit or something. It does sort of remove that creative side of it a bit.
But I guess it could be a good starting point, and then
you go for a wall of sound. That sounds like a good way to build it.
Yeah.
Proper wall of sound.
I mean, it makes sense. If you're into that kind of high end, again, jungle, dub, drum and bass, that kind of thing, where that is very wall of noise and it is very kind of thing, maybe that's what you're going for.
I love it as an idea.
Yeah, I could see that being a good start point. You do that first, and then you do the creative, I want this lower in the mix, I want this higher in the mix, and things like that. But it just seems like a lot of work.
Because some mixers that I've read say, the first thing I do is I listen to rough mixes and so on, and decide what the core of the song is. What makes it have impact? Where the vibe is, where the emotional content or whatever, and start with that and build other things around it and so on. And the way that they tend to approach mixes differently because of that. So I suppose that sort of approach would be out the window.
That's fun, creative bit.
I mean, it'd be good to A/B different methods of building a mix like that. I think, to literally go, right, I'm going to do 5 mixes on 5 different days, right? They have to be finished in one day.
Yeah.
And they're going to be different approaches. And I'm going to pick the best one. What you'll probably find is you'll have 5 mixes that are all good for different reasons and you can't make your mind up.
That might
I'd be curious to see, then how do your reverbs and your delays? I mean, I think about how I have my sends, my effects sends set up and that, and am I comparing my instrument with the effect on or with it off?
I guess you'd have to bounce out that sound to have the effect on it, and then that's probably the best way, because then it's the most representative of the final sound.
Because there are a lot of psychoacoustic effects that come into it, the way that you perceive sound, especially in stereo and things like that. make things sometimes sound quieter than they are. Have you ever done that? You've had a stereo sound, you think, I'm just not hearing it. You hit the mono button, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, different phase issues and things like that can do it too.
So, I mean, yeah, how would you roll those factors into it? I don't know. Maybe just start with it and tweak it from there.
That's what I'm thinking, is that it's a good start point, especially because, like you said, Eon, like there's no creativity in that process. You're literally just, oh, that's loud enough, and then you want to take that creative approach to be like, this needs to be blended in the background more, or this needs to be the prominent feature.
Things
like that.
I think that's what I do, is like bring everything up to nominal and then determine what I want to bring back. Right.
You do a lot of your stuff live though, Steve, don't you? Am I right there? Like,
what's that?
You do a lot of your stuff live, like you sequence live.
I do my sequencing in a lot of the effect controls, the faders, in real time. But I mean, there are loops already established, and it's triggering the loops and controlling the volumes and the effects and whatever else on that type of stuff. So I still go back and nitpick it though afterwards. I mean, I nitpick it beforehand, I nitpick it afterwards and then I release it, and then I say, "Oh, I wish I would have done this instead."
I think that's the woe of every musician. Like, oh man, I could have lowered that at 6 dB or something. Yeah. But everybody listening would be curious: have you tried this method? Because it sounds like none of us have used it. So, you at home, if you're listening, what do you do that, and what volume do you like to mix at? Because I'm really curious about that.
I think a lot of mixing though is really, it's a personal taste on what you want. And I mean, I love low mids. I mean, that's the Boards of Canada stuff, where I love where that stuff pops out and it's really kind of muddy. And I don't really like a lot of super high things in there, but
it's warm without sounding boxy, and that's not always easy to do. Got that warmth without sounding
I've
really
done a lot of
hollow,
looking at their EQ spectrums and stuff, and it's surprising how much top end they actually have. Like, it sounds like it's low end, but it's not. Because I've done covers and stuff, and I've analyzed it with EQ and frequency spectrums, and like done reference things, and it's really bizarre.
I think I mentioned to you one time, Sunwarper, about the Music Has the Right to Children album is not very bass heavy at all. The kicks have a lot of bass to them. But there's not a lot of bass instruments.
Exactly. And even like you look at Roy G. Biv, or however you want to pronounce it, like the bass itself is mostly just like a mid and high frequency distorted bass. There's not much like sub. The kick is where the sub's at. But what I'm saying, like, if you take a Boards of Canada song and actually analyze the spectrum, like, we think it's those warm mids, but you'd be surprised the spectrum they use is a bit different. And like, especially Campfire Head Phase, it's very balanced.
Mixed. That's probably to me that's the best mix.
That's like my god tier album. Like, I reference everything to that and a couple other things, but yeah. Though it's funny, it's interesting, the kick in like Dave Van Cowboy is very quiet compared to the rest of the sounds. Like, the bass in Dave Van Cowboy is like, I think because they mastered that album really hot, so it's a very balanced mix. So yeah,
interesting.
It's interesting, but yeah, it's interesting because we always, I think, ascribe like, oh, it's warm mids for them, and it's just interesting when you look at the spectrum. It's not always the case. It just seems like it.
Well, I would have assumed that Curtis had just massive wave files too, and now I just found out today that they're just little tiny guys.
His kicks are massive.
My kicks are massive. I've got a lot of bass.
I have to go, bro, tone it down like 6 dB. He's like, no, I'll do 3. I'm like, all right.
So you're seeing the spikes in the wave for his kicks.
Yeah, because I get it to master it, and it's just like this quiet thing, and then you see these needles of just like I'm like, oh, this is a Curtis mix, but hey, it sounds great, so no judgment. I'm just saying, I always like just love to open it and just do like boom, there's a big kick.
It's fun. It's what I like. It's especially since the birth and the rise of the bedroom producer, like this idea of these rules that we have, and people have made careers based on like YouTube academies and stuff. The right way to mix. I mean, it shows
just make some rules up and then do a series of videos explaining them, and
it's profit.
It's like we've come on today and we've said, there's this thing out there. We don't know jack shit about it, but we're going to talk about it anyway. At least we're being honest about it. there is no right way in which to do these things. Obviously, there are things that we don't want to do. We don't want clipping, and we want things to sound tasty. But I mean, I say that, but even like Void Noir, like he does some fantastic mixes, and he's got clipping, and he's got stuff all over the place sometimes. And so it's even that.
People say, well, I like analog clipping, that's kind of quite nice. And when I used to record on 2-inch 24-track tape, we used to pump it hot because you get saturation off the tape and you get extra warmth and so on. And people would say, well, you don't want digital clipping, though. That's nasty. Except, come along a load of noise mongering people like Aphex Twin and so on. Suddenly it's like, no, I want it to sound like it's actually broken.
Yeah. I want it to be
in an ugly way.
Do you think in like 10 years they're gonna be people that fixate on having like iPhone 1 quality looking pictures and audio? Like everything that
stick it through the iPhone plug-in.
Well, that's the thing. Like everything that we get nostalgia for is things we had as we were younger. So it's like, the analog thing sounds great, and it was before my time pretty much, but. Like, I love the sound of it, but, I have, like, nostalgia for that grainy looking... Like, I saw a picture a couple days ago and was like, oh, that's such a cool looking effect, and it's just, like, shot on an iPhone 5. I was like, oh. You get that nostalgia for that time that was important to you, Like, it's just... Like, as we get older and things, those things that were, like, new when we were young become old, and then we get that, like, nostalgia for it. So it'll be interesting to see if, like, oh, yeah, I want that... iPhone 5 quality or something on a photo,
Well, I think that Polaroids did that with their, the old cameras that would instantly push out a picture.
Yeah.
They came back in style a few years back, and granted, it was probably in style again for all of 3 months or something like that. But
that
was kind of cool.
Like,
though.
cassettes had limitation, right? Like, wasn't Howard, you could probably answer this, but like cassettes were that grain and the hiss and stuff was considered like a limitation, right? Because then when CDs came out, people were like, "Oh my god, you can get this clear, pristine sound." But now everybody.
It was always a new type of Dolby to get rid of the tape hiss, and you had to record with it on and then play it back with it on, and it still sounded like the hi hats had been sort of being chewed by something.
Please do that again. Please do that again.
Now people want that sound, though. That's my point. Is like now people want that old hiss sound and deterioration and things like that. So. It's just an interesting little aside, like as things go on, the next group of what becomes like wanted and nostalgia is what was not
Although
wanted.
Funny enough, I was sampling something the other day that had a load of hiss on it, and there was something wrong with it, and I realised that the hiss was just the wrong pitch. I just needed to pitch it down a little bit. So,
there you go.
So it's like, it's not even the right kind of hiss.
No, that's nitpicking right there.
I need to pitch my hiss.
That's just... I don't like that soprano hiss. I want more sort of alto.
Got to be in key, okay?
It's got to be done that way.
Tune your kicks, tune your hiss. That's the Eon Lake central tenets.
Exactly. I look at it. I look back at it, and I mean, okay. So I think again, it comes back to story, and I think it comes back to the meaning behind what it is. Like, so you take Boards of Canada. They're very popular because they've got a great story. They've got a great legacy behind them. A lot of people look up to them, and if you've got a good story that sells the music, and if you've got a good kind of reputation around what the music is, people will lap it up. It doesn't matter what it is.
Quite enigmatic, really, as bands go.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely got that mystique.
Exactly, and I think that's kind of, like you say, that's what makes it work for him. And going full circle as we approach the hour, Dua Lipa, she's got a great story behind her, and that kind of carries up. Her music's okay. Well done, pop, but she has a great story behind her. She's.
Although again, I hear a lot of auto tune. I'm so tired of hearing auto tune. Yeah. It really grates to me. It's like the whole, it's like the over auto tuned rap style. That you hear it. It's like, okay, all right. Something else now.
I'm gonna send you some mumble rap.
Tune, but when it's overdone and
it's used now on vocals in pop songs, like chorus was used back in the day, or really short delays that you use for doubling, especially when you use them in mono. Well, even faster than slapback when it starts to, when you're almost into phasing territory and so on. And it's just that it's a sound. I get that, you know, and they do it to people like Michael Bublé as well, and he can sing. But it's a style to do a pop song with that and have it sit that well in the music because it's auto-tuned. It sort of really, it sits it in. I just don't like it. I'm sick to death of hearing it.
I think you're right there. Like I've been doing a lot of auto tuning the past couple of weeks. Again, this album I'm working on with one, singing and we're auto tuning it, that kind of thing. And again, you're completely right. Too much auto tune, and it really starts to grate on you. Yeah. And then going back,
I hear it, and it irritates me immediately.
Yeah,
even just a touch. It's just a.
I wonder how much of it is like again experience. Like less is more in that issue. Like if you get a relatively inexperienced engineer, they might go, okay, whack a load of auto tune on it because that's what everyone.
I've heard it used quite sparingly recently. You know.
Well, I wonder if part of it too is layering.
Yeah. It makes the voice sound like an instrument.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. I wonder if part of it is with layering, because a lot of music now has a lot of doubles and harmonies and things like that. And the more of those you get, if they're off pitch, it probably
for me they sound better because when you actually track them up, if you've got enough variance, just a tiny bit of it, you get that modulation, and it's lovely. It's organic.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm just saying maybe to some ears or to some people who are trying to hit mass appeal or something, they want less of that possible. Like, oh, that's like starting to get too much or so. I don't know. That's just a thought. Yeah.
We'll have to see. Why don't we all do it? I mean, I know Michael, you've got a couple of tracks coming out with some vocals on. The three of us.
Howard, sorry if you had to hear auto-tune in my song. I'm so sorry. You were probably like, I hate this guy. I only used a little because I had all these different vocals from my friend and myself, and I wanted them to sit better.
Actually, I didn't notice really.
Oh, there we go. See, all right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Because there are a lot of vocals in it, and I noticed it was more than one voice.
Yeah,
and some of it was sounded like it was repitched.
Yes, I did do that. I did some of the harmonies I made by taking the original and repitching it, and putting it slightly off time so that it was a little different, so no phasing.
It was quite carefully constructed as well, rather than just like a main vocal compressed a lot, sat in the middle of the mix with an auto tune on it.
Can I put that as like a tagline on the art, like when I advertise it, like quote from Eon, like carefully crafted?
You can, you can quote me on the good stuff, definitely.
And then I'll put a next one, too much auto tune.
We'll see. I'd like to see. Are we going to see any vocals from KST or Hydrofighter, Steve?
I wouldn't think so.
Cool. Well, if you ever want any, let me know.
That works. There seems to be a trend of that going in that sort of direction with a lot of people. Like people in electronica tending to shift towards vocals, and for good,
I'm categorically not going.
No, you're doing that poetry.
Right. We say that now. Deep state now.
Poetry. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Apart from my William Shatner album.
What's it called? Paul Stretch Deep State poetry. Yeah. I'm holding you accountable for that album.
No, I mean that's not a value judgment on vocals. It's just I would do it as another artist if I was going to do that. I think sometimes adding words to music is like hanging an anchor on your spaceship, and it really kind of just drags it down to earth again.
You're spot on. That's why I didn't do it for so long, because I want make your own story.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Listen and take what I felt, and then make your own story from it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm doing is about.
Story.
But I might decide I want to do that kind of music. I just do it I'd do it as a side project. Do something else.
Yeah. We
talked about this a couple of weeks ago with the Tycho album when he did that.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't think it gave him any justice to his music. I mean, I really thought
having read all the things he said about, I totally understand why he did it, and
sometimes you need
as
to
far
experiment.
as Tycho are concerned, he's the law, right? It is because he says so. It's his music.
Yeah.
Do what you like.
Yeah. And sometimes you just need to experiment. And I think he just wanted to tell a story, and I get that.
Yeah.
If I could sing, I mean, I have pitch, but you have to have like a singer who actually has
Going
a
full
vocal
circle.
quality to be that.
Yeah. I mean,
lead
I
vocalist
can
type of
sing.
thing,
My
right?
pitching's fine, but my singing voice sounds like my talking voice. It's kind of thick and a bit nasal, and I don't like it.
Oh.
Okay.
Maybe you could cover it up with enough auto tune.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
Repitch it. That's
Pitch
the
it
way
up
to
a
do it.
bit.
There you go.
I'll sound like bright and breezy.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys know Bo Burnham?
Yeah.
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 He does a great finale piece to his Happy skit, which is 20 minutes of him singing taking the mick out of Kanye West with vocoder and pitch shift, and it's really
Because it's important work, right? Somebody should, at all times of the day, there should be someone in the world taking the piss out of Kanye West.
We should all be taking shifts.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna man that post.
That's cool. Well, on that note, gents, we have crossed past, and as we're treating this as a radio show, I think we should cut it there and less of a podcast.
Okay, but we need to talk about the things that Ben raised last time next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh,
And
yes.
we can also talk about that in our next Star Stream.
Ethical streaming.
Yeah, we could talk about. I
Next
think that
time.
might fit better for Star Stream. Maybe we can get Ben on it too.
Yeah, we'll make it work.
Can
But
have a chat.
it's always it's good fun. We hope you guys listening or watching this have enjoyed it. It's been a fun hour. I tell you again, all of us have had a pretty shit week, and this is kind of made up for it that way. So
Yeah.
this is kind of
Where did the hour go?
Yeah, it's always good to sit with you guys and talk this stuff out. Come to blows about what copyright is.
There is no copyright. There's
Oh,
just
there we
people
go.
in
See,
suits
we're
with
coming to
money.
blows again. Yeah. So I wasn't wrong when I represented you as saying, "Let's all thieve. Just take it."
Coming to that degree.
You guys are always
Good.
over exaggerating,
Yeah.
but nope. There
You
go.
should probably exaggerate next time.
Well, we live in a world of exaggeration.
That's quite true. And on that,
why
we
are
should
we
probably end
too?
it. That's a good downer note to end it on after a good talk.
Yeah, it's always fair. It's always fair.
Steve, thanks
but
for hopping on. We always appreciate
Yeah.
seeing you.
Thanks for having me,
Talking.
guys.
Absolutely.
Good
Have a
to
good one.
good to see you.
Yeah. See you guys next week. Take it easy. Let us know if you guys at home enjoyed this. Give it a share. Give it a like, because
Opinions.
opinions are fun.
We want your opinions.
Yeah.
We want to know. What
And
you're
we'll
up
be
to.
back
Can't
next
just
week.
be us.
Hopefully, we'll be live this time. I got to get OBS running. I didn't have time, but if we are, it'll be Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, which is 1300, 1200 GMT.
1300.
I was right. I should have trusted.
No,
myself.
but it's not. No, it's not even GMT, mate. It's Eastern.
whatever.
It's Eastern, right?
EST.
Oh well, what's the
EST.
GMT then? What is
GMT
it?
is 7 p.m.
7 p.m.
7 p.m. GMT.
All right, we'll
7
get
p.m.
there.
GMT.
We'll
It's
get there.
1300 CST.
There we go. See, I had the
Standard.
1300
You're on
for
standard,
something,
right.
and then I wanted the GMT for something else. So my brain just went, "Hey, you haven't slept in a while. Here's two numbers and the thing, and just
Yeah.
go for it."
What the hell? Numbers.
Fuck it, just
Yeah.
go for it. Yeah.
Let's go from there. Anyway, gents, much obliged. Enjoy the rest of your week. Take it easy. Bye bye.
All right. See you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.